Hi, Scott from the upcoming.
Cheers, man. Nice one.
Thanks for speaking to us today.
Lovely.
So, America is known for its redemptive sports narratives. You have Rocky up until Full Circle Chuck, which has just been released. What makes a great British boxing film?
I don't know really. That's not a sloppy answer. It's just I don't think you can set out to make that. I wanted to get the boxing elements right. I used to box myself. It was a massive, massive part of my life as a kid, and all my boxing friends from my old club, the Fitzroy Lodge, they're all here tonight. And they really helped us in the film. So I wanted to get the boxing elements of it right. I think you'd be in trouble if you set out to say you're going to make a great British. Look, I'm British, so I just tried to make a great boxing film, and more importantly, a great love story. I wanted to make a story about the men in that world and how they kind of love each other, but how they show that, with their actions. And so I think with any film, really, the boxing is the canvas, maybe that it's set on. That's maybe where the narrative goes, but it's about the subtext. I think for any film to hold up, it has to be about the human condition underneath that, and hopefully that's what we've got in this. I think that's what all the great American films always get right, is that you believe in the characters, you believe that these are real people. Yeah.
Part of that authenticity of a British film often centres around the working class. Do you feel like there is a dearth of these films right now? Do you feel that Britain's doing enough to represent the working class in its films?
It's interesting, look, because we live in a time where there's 100 TV channels, multiple cinemas, with films coming out every week, So there's more content out there now than there's ever been. So you'd think that there'd be more balance. But the simple truth of it is I don't know about really good quality work, if I'm honest. We make the big glossy films, and we make those very well. But it's... as a working class actor, I guess some of the scripts that turn up. I don't want to be running around with guns all the time. I don't want to. I want to make films with poetry. And you want to make those as an actor. And so as a writer, producer, whatever it is, I certainly wanted to do that with this film. I wanted there to be something in it. Look, the truth is, it's difficult to get them on. We've been reviewed off the the reviews have been phenomenal, from broadsheets, tabloids, film magazines. Lads Mags, End Art Mags, they've all really reviewed the film beautifully, and that's not lost on me. But it's still difficult to get it into cinemas, to convince and the independent cinemas, actually. It's the big cinemas like the View and the Odeon. Those guys have really supported us. This tonight's getting beamed out to all of those cinemas all over, but we're still now negotiating to get it onto screens. So I don't know really. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
It definitely goes some way towards it. Thank you.
If anything, I hope this film is one of many that's going to force them to give working class films, for want of a better phrase, a chance. We've made some great ones over the years. If you think back to the '60s and the great Michael Caine films, the Nil by Mouths, the Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, Get Carter, all of these films. There's been some astonishing films from that class of people, if you like. We should never lose that, We live in a society, and it's not an upper class society. It's full of people with talent from all areas. So, script. I used to love the playwrights like Pinter, and Pinter used to talk about working from an image. So, and I saw an image, a man walking in the rain, and just started to ask questions of it. Where's he walking to? And it was a boxing gym, and that's where it kind of crossed over with my own life. I used to box for an amateur club about 5 minutes from here.
Wow.
And so as I was writing it, I could see it, and the characters that I were writing about, I could see them, and I knew the spirit of them, and so that's where it started. From there, I concocted a story of sorts, So it was it was a narrative that I made up and invented, like storytellers do. But within that narrative, I included sort of homages, if you like, to people that I love. Homages? Is it a plural of homages?
Homage. It's all good.
Yeah. It was a big thank you note to those guys.
Yeah. Fantastic cast as well. I mean, you couldn't have been delighted with
No, it was
who you
beautiful.
got.
It was just the strangest experience. It was my. They say, I don't know, who are the people you'd invite to your sort of fantasy dinner party? And this was like, who would be your fantasy cast and people to work with on this? And in fact, before we got the casting, Paul Weller was the first on board, an idol of mine. That's not too cheap a word to use for Paul. He's an artistic idol, and so it was quite surreal for him to come on board. We then needed to get me ready for the boxing element, and so I just thought, who is the perfect person for it? And it was Barry McGuigan. And I said this to my producer, quite cheap. I said, we need Barry McGuigan. And they wrote to him, and to my utter amazement, Barry knew my work. He knew This Is England and London to Brighton, and we met and had a coffee. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man, Barry. And he just said to me, he said, "Is there hope in this story?" And I said, "There is, yeah." And then we gave him the script, he read it, and that was it. He was on board, and we struck up a great friendship. He's a dear friend now. And then from there, we started to build the cast. And I knew when I was writing it, I wanted Ray Winston to play Bill. Michael Smiley is not only one of the greatest actors working today, he's a dear friend from back in the day. It wasn't my idea for him to play the part, actually. I didn't think of him, and our director said, "There's a great actor I'm thinking of called Michael Smiley." I couldn't believe he'd said that name. I called Michael there and then, and that was it, man. I knew we were ready to make the film then, and Ian McShane, bless him. Yeah, brief synopsis. It's a film about a boxer, an ex-boxer. We find him later in life. He's in the throes of addiction, and he kind of finds his way back to his old amateur boxing club, a place where he went as a boy. That's the start of the film. I don't really want to ruin the end, but I think he goes back there. Essentially, it's kind of his church, I guess. It's a place where he used to find peace and serenity, and so. It's a story of addiction, really. We set it on a backdrop of boxing, but it's a love story, I guess, between three men. Which sounds quite, I don't know, it's a funny setup, really, but it's a love story about three men who are not the kind of men who say, "I love you." And I think it's about these men coming to realise that they do love each other. Yeah. Well, the characters are called Bill and Eddie. They're two trainers, and like I say, this guy comes back into their lives, and they have mixed reactions because he's an addict, and as we all know, sometimes it's not easy to live with addicts, and so these two trainers have very different responses to this guy coming back into their lives, and they're played by Michael Smiley. I think is one of the finest actors working today, and the great Ray Winston. I knew Ray was going to play the part when I wrote it. Well, I hoped he would. I didn't tell him that. But I just knew Ray boxed when he was a youngster, and when we did the film Snow White and the Huntsman together, we played the dwarves in that. Andy and McShane obviously was in this film, and so Ray and I would talk at great length about boxing and what those men that run those clubs for us did in our lives, and so I knew instantly who I wanted to play the part. And once I finished the script, I just got cheeky enough to ask him, and luckily he read the script and he felt a connection with it. And he does an astonishing job. I don't know if you've seen the film, but his performance is beautiful. It's really beautiful and poignant. And, I think people are surprised because obviously Ray's, Neil by Mouth's one of my favourite films of all time. I think it's one of the great performances by any actor internationally. But all ferocious characters. And so I think people are surprised to see Ray play someone so gentle as he does in this film. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.